And we make hit records together. We got a chemistry, you know, to where we make hit records. And Snoop is able to do his own thing now, call his own shots. Nate is able to call his own shots, and I'm able to call my own shots. And we're not dealing with no more record companies telling us that we can't do our record together. So now we can finally do it. So we're putting it down.
Today we're going to be talking about Warren Griffin III, aka Warren G, Nathaniel Hall, aka Nate Dogg, and oh boy, forgive me for possibly totally botching this name, Calvin Cortazar Broadus Jr., aka Snoop Dogg. And yes, we will continue calling Snoop Dogg by the simpler name Snoop Dogg. Now we're going to be looking at mostly the east side of Long Beach. These days is much more calmer than it was in the 90s. But this is where all three of them mainly grew up. I'm going to take you to real spots here where they grew up, where parts of Regulate, the song, was created. And without further ado, and may I stop yapping, let's go.
From the Department of Health and Human Services and the Department of Equity.
It's Long Beach City College parking lot. That's where I'm standing right now. And right behind me here is Long Beach Childhood Development Center. And right here is where all three of them met. Now, Snoop Dogg already knew Nate Dogg, they're cousins, but Warren G met both of them right here.
So just a little bit of a correction here. It looks like Nate Dogg did not move to California until he was 14. So turns out that Warren G met Nate Dogg in high school through Snoop Dogg, his cousin.
Now Warren G stated multiple times in interviews that he actually started hanging out with Snoop Dogg's older brother, because Warren G's just slightly bit older than Snoop Dogg. And so he was hanging out with his older brother at first, but over time he became better friends with Snoop Dogg. And also multiple times in interviews, Warren G would bring up the fact that they would walk across the street over to King Park, Martin Luther King Park, and they would do activities in the summer like swimming and football and stuff like that. We're gonna walk over there right now. Right here is Martin Luther King Park, and this is a park that Warren G would bring up multiple times during interviews, saying that this is where all three of them met. Now, fortunately for us, it is Martin Luther King's weekend, and they're having an all-weekend event, plus Monday we all get off. Thank you, Martin Luther King, but we get Mondays off, or this Monday off anyway. Now it's still early, of course. It's like 10 o'clock. This thing, probably around 2 o'clock, is just gonna be popping off. And you see they have a stage set up back here. We're gonna have music going on. Looks like fun.
Thank God Almighty, we are free at last.
It was also said that Warren G and Snoop Dogg actually joined a football team together, and they would play. They started out here, and they would continue playing football into high school, which we're gonna go to right now. Let's go. Now I was at Polytechnic High Long Beach. This is where they continued going to school together as kids, as teenagers. And Warren G and Snoop Dogg would continue to play football right here at this very high school. And of course, going to many schools together, they have bonded. It was between 1985, 86 to about 1989 when Snoop Dogg graduated from Polytechnic High. It was shortly after they graduate that the trio made a hip-hop group. Now that hip-hop group was called 213. Now 213 at the time was Long Beach's zip code. And they got the idea from another hip-hop group in the Bay Area, and they were under the name of 415. And even though 213 didn't make an album until 2004, they would record themselves oftentimes, and Warren G would end up showing Dr. Dre their demo tapes. And Dr. Dre was really interested in Snoop Dogg, and in fact, asked Warren G if he could personally meet him. Now we have to remember that Warren G and Dr. Dre were stepbrothers. There was a time period where they actually lived together. It was very easy for Warren G to show that demo to Dr. Dre. And Dr. Dre had a bit of a name for himself around the LA area. He wasn't known worldwide just yet, but he had some push and pull in the LA area. It was definitely a step forward. There were other stars that went to this high school, including Cameron Diaz. Anyway, let's go on to our next spot, where Warren G finds the record that later on makes him a rich man. Let's go.
What's up, y'all? This is Warren G. That's Nate Dogg and Snoop Dogg, and we're doing it big for y'all 213 style. That's our group.
I still got it. I still got it, y'all. Nate, I still got it. You still got it?
What's up, Las Vegas?
Warren G, you still got it?
I got it, baby.
So it was right here at Roscoe's House of Chicken and Waffles in Long Beach that Warren G would come out and meet up with a merchant. Now a lot of merchants will sell stuff right here in front of Roscoe's. Warren G would find a whole box of albums, a record collection, and he bought the whole box. And he mentioned several times that it was one of the best things that he's ever done, you know, being a DJ that he was. And so he now had a selection of all these older songs, and in there was an album by Michael McDonald. And Michael McDonald is the person that wrote a song by the name of I Keep Forgetting. Now, in multiple interviews with Warren G, he would talk about when he was a child that he would listen to the Michael McDonald song I Keep Forgetting. It was a song that his parents had the album, and he loved it so much that he would actually listen to that song over and over. There was something definitely there to inspire him to make his own song out of the same riff, which is kind of cool. Warren G was able to sample that song, and that is the song that is the backbeat, the sampled music in the background of Regulate. And this is Warren G's biggest album. This is Warren G's biggest single. Now, of course, there were a couple other songs that were sampled throughout Regulate, but I Keep Forgetting is the main song. And of course, the very beginning was a sample from the movie Young Guns. Now from here on out, I'm just gonna show a few locations from the song. It doesn't look like they actually filmed the video in Long Beach. I could be wrong on that, but I couldn't find anything on actually where they filmed locations. But we're gonna go look at the real thing, so we don't need the filming location. I'd also like to point out that Regulate was a hit single before the album came out, before Warren G released a whole album, which was Regulate G-Funk era. Before he released that album, Regulate was already a hit. It was actually used in a movie, Above the Rim. The movie Above the Rim came out in 1994. And the album Regulate, G-Funk Era, also came out in 1994. Okay, Above the Rim came out in March 23rd, 1994. And the album Regulate, G-Funk Era came out a couple months after that in June. Now, in an interview, Warren G said that he lived in an apartment in Long Beach off of Long Beach Boulevard on San Antonio Drive. Now, why this is important is because this very apartment is where they recorded Regulate. Now, I'm not going to be able to pinpoint the exact apartment, but we can get the whereabouts and kind of get the feel for the neighborhood.
You remember when you recorded that still? Or?
Yeah.
Were you and Nate both there together? Did you kind of do your vocals at different times?
We was both there together. I had an apartment on Long Beach Boulevard in San Antonio.
Now, there's multiple apartments up and down San Antonio, so your guess is as good as mine. But we'll just go with this one right here. This is right off of Long Beach Boulevard, and this is an apartment right here. Now, this is known as the Bixby Knoll area. This is kind of Bixby Knoll is known as more of a upper scale neighborhood. But right behind me here is an apartment that could possibly be our apartment we're looking for. And now this is the apartment where they recorded Regulate. Now, of course, I cannot be 100% sure that this is the apartment, but this is the closest apartment to Long Beach Boulevard. So I just kind of figured, well, this might be it. According to Warren G called up Nate Dogg, and he called him up and told him about the sample that he had going on. Told him, hey man, I got a really cool beat, I'd like for you to come over here and maybe we can freestyle over and see what happens. He wanted it to be kind of like a Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg team up. Because by this time, Snoop Dogg is already kind of in death row with Dr. Dre. And so Warren G wanted to start his own kind of thing outside of death row and Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg. And they kind of freestyle. That's what Warren G said. He said, I just went at it. We freestyled 4 bars. I would hand the mic over to Nate Dogg. He would freestyle over, and they would eventually come up with the song Regulate. Now, Warren G just had a little kind of cheap recorder that you can sample music from, probably something that you could have just bought at like a Guitar Center or something like that. Anybody could buy one of those, and they just played the music that he mixed down into this little box he had and just went at it and made one of the best and most recognizable hip-hop songs ever made. So this right here is the corner of 21st Street and Lewis Avenue. And this is not only the cover of Warren G's Regulate G-Funk era, but also the corner that he speaks of many times in his songs where he grew up. So I'm trying to get the album cover perfectly, but there's no way I'm going to be able to do it. It has like a fisheye kind of effect on it, and plus there's some vehicles in the way, but I'm trying my best. So if you look at the photo, it looks like it was taken from right over here. And like I said, it had like a fish kind of a fishbowl kind of effect on it, which was able to kind of capture these trees in the background. And this is down here is the neighborhood where Warren G lived and grew up in. So obviously very noticeable couple lines of palm trees. This Baptist church right here was definitely in the photo too. Take note of that. And look at the album cover, it looks exactly the same. Not much has changed. I mean, other than car being parked here and making it a little more difficult for me to kind of grab all of what was taken. But back to Lewis Avenue and 21st Street. This is where also in the song Regulate, where Warren G pulls up to a bunch of guys playing craps, and he joins in on the game of craps, but because of that he ends up getting jumped and beaten up. And this is also where Nate Dogg comes in to save the day. One would say they had to regulate. Now this is the streetlight post that he leans up against during the photo shoot for his album cover. Now this behind me here, right here, is the Colonial Motel in Long Beach, California. And it used to have a poolside that apparently is no longer, but the Colonial Motel is quite possibly what was known as the Eastside Motel. The Eastside Motel that is mentioned in Regulate, the song Regulate. And this is where they come after Nate Dogg saves Warren G from the attack. Saves Warren G from being jumped, basically by Regulate. After Nate Dogg saves Warren G, they come to the Eastside Motel. Now the reason why I'm pretty sure that this is the Eastside Motel that is spoken in the song, even though it's never been called the Eastside Motel, for one, it is in East Long Beach. This is all East Long Beach, and that's most of the song takes place in East Long Beach. Another reason why I'm pretty sure this is the motel is because I read somebody's blog, and in the blog he talks about talking to a person that was around in Long Beach in the 90s, and he confirmed that indeed that this Colonial Motel right here on Pacific Coast Highway in Long Beach is known as the Eastside Motel. Now, I don't want to get too close to this place. It's not the friendliest place, and in fact I don't even think it's a motel anymore. I think it closed down during the pandemic and has become maybe a housing shelter of some sort. So I'm not trying to get too close or too nosy, you know? But anyway, this right here is the Eastside Motel. Now I'm gonna leave down in the description below of the blog that I learned about the Eastside Motel. And check it out and let me know if you do read it, if you think the guy is 100% correct. I believe he's probably correct. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you so much for joining me on this video. If you want to watch another video of mine, if you enjoyed this one, you'll enjoy this one right over here. It's about NWA. Go check that video out. And if you want to go check out another video of mine, go check this one out, a random video, whatever it is. Go check out either one of those guys, and I'll see you on the other side. Have a good one.